1970s had wild muscle cars everyone remembers, but some powerful machines slipped through the cracks. These sleeper cars looked ordinary but packed serious muscle, hiding in plain sight while legends stole the spotlight. Number 8, 1970, Mercury Cyclone Spoiler. The 1970 Mercury Cyclone Spoiler is one of those cars that never really got the attention it deserved. It had all the right ingredients, a powerful engine, aggressive styling, and serious performance, but for some reason, it remained in the shadows, while other muscle cars stole the spotlight. This car was Mercury's attempt to break free from its usual lineup of fancy Fairlanes and tame Cougars. And guess what? They nailed it. At first look, the Cyclone Spoiler looked a lot like its Ford cousins, especially the Torino Cobra. But Mercury made sure it had its personality. The body was longer and sleeker, with a bold Coke bottle shape that stood out. Unlike some muscle cars of the time, this one came ready for action straight from the factory. No need for expensive upgrades. The 429 cubic inch V8 with Ram Air was already standard, making a massive 370 horsepower. If that wasn't enough, you could go for the Super Cobra Jet package, which bumped power up to 375 horsepower and added stronger internals, solid lifters, and a more aggressive camshaft. This package also gave you a 4-speed manual transmission, an upgraded engine oil cooler, and high-performance rear gears, either a 3.91 ratio or a 4.30 ratio, with a Detroit locker differential for even better traction. And Mercury didn't stop there. The spoiler came with a functional hood scoop to feed the hungry V8, along with a chin spoiler and rear airfoil to keep things stable at high speeds. While many muscle cars focused on flashy decals and racing stripes, Mercury kept things clean with simple tape stripes and a selection of bold colors like competition blue, competition yellow, competition green, competition orange, competition gold, and pastel blue. If you wanted something different, Ford even had a custom color program, and a handful of buyers took advantage of it. Step inside, and you'd notice something Mercury did better than Ford: the instrument cluster. Unlike the Torino, which had basic warning lights and a strange horizontal tachometer, the Cyclone Spoiler had round gauges angled towards the driver, including a proper tachometer, oil pressure gauge, coolant temperature gauge, and ammeter. This wasn't just about speed, it was about control. Now, let's talk about the size. This was a big car, measuring nearly 210 inches long and sharing the 117-inch wheelbase with the Torino. It weighed around 3,900 pounds, but Mercury made sure it handled well. The competition handling package was standard, which included heavy-duty front coil and rear leaf springs, upgraded shocks, and a front anti-roll bar. Power steering and front disc brakes were optional, along with 14 by 7-inch steel wheels for a more aggressive stance. Despite all these features, the Cyclone Spoiler remained underrated. Maybe it was because Mercury was seen as Ford's fancier cousin, or perhaps it just got lost in the flood of muscle cars at the time. Either way, this was a serious machine that could hold its own against the best of the era. It had power, style, and the performance to back it up. It's just one of those cars that never got the recognition it truly deserved. If you enjoyed this video, then hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Number 7, 1971 AMC Matador 401. The 1971 AMC Matador Machine Go is one of the rarest muscle cars ever made, yet almost no one talks about it. It had the power, the looks, and the performance. But for some reason, it never got the attention it deserved. Maybe it was because AMC was always the underdog, or maybe it just got lost in the flood of muscle cars at the time. Either way, this was a true sleeper, fast, rare, and completely overlooked. At a glance, the Matador didn't scream muscle car. It shared its platform with the Ambassador and had a design that was more clean than aggressive. But AMC had a secret weapon, the Machine Go package. This wasn't a full-blown performance model like the Rebel machine from the year before, but it packed serious upgrades. Under the hood, you had two V8 options, a 360 cubic inch engine, making solid power, or the top-tier 401 cubic inch V8, which pushed out even more. Dual exhaust was standard with the bigger engine and optional for the smaller one. These were serious engines, but AMC didn't go all out with flashy decals or a factory-installed Ram air scoop, as they did with the Rebel machine. That might be one reason the Machine Go Matador slipped under the radar. The Machine Go package also came with 15 by 7-inch slot-style wheels wrapped in raised white letter Goodyear polyglass tires. It had a handling package with heavy-duty springs, shocks, and a rear sway bar, making sure this car could grip the road. Power disc brakes were standard, and you could even upgrade to a twin grip differential for better traction. But here's the thing, there was no special badging, no stripes, nothing that made it stand out. If you didn't know what you were looking at, you'd think it was just another Matador. And then there's the rarity factor. AMC never kept exact production records. And when Chrysler took over AMC in the late 1980s, most of those records were lost. Experts estimate that somewhere between 55 and 57 Machine Go Matadors were ever built. That makes it one of the rarest muscle cars of its time. Unlike the Rebel machine, which had a special VIN code, these Matadors were impossible to identify just by looking at the numbers. That means some of these could still be out there, completely unnoticed. So why is this car unknown? Maybe it was AMC's quiet marketing. Maybe it was because it didn't look as wild as other muscle cars. Or maybe it was just ahead of its time. But one thing is for sure, the Machine Go Matador was a true sleeper, built for speed but disguised as just another car on the road. Number 6, 1972 Pontiac Luxury, Le Mans 455 HO. The 1972 Pontiac Le Mans 455 HO is one of those cars that had everything a muscle car needed. Big power, great looks, and serious performance. But somehow it never became a household name. It was a hidden gem, overshadowed by its famous cousin, the GTO. But in reality, this was just as fast, just as aggressive, and in some cases, even rarer than a GTO. Back in the early 1970s, insurance companies were cracking down on muscle cars. High-performance models like the GTO had skyrocketing insurance rates, making them nearly impossible for younger buyers to afford. Pontiac had a clever solution: offer the same power and performance, but without the GTO name attached. And that's exactly what they did with the Le Mans 455 HO. It was the ultimate sleeper, GTO performance without the GTO price tag. Under the hood sat a 455 cubic inch high-output V8, making 300 horsepower and loaded with performance upgrades. It came with a functional ram air system, a 4-speed Muncie M22 manual transmission, and a safe T-Track differential for better traction. The Y99 handling package added heavy-duty suspension, G60 by 15-inch white letter tires, and 15 by 7-inch Rally 2 wheels. Everything about this car screamed performance, but because it didn't have a GTO badge, most people never noticed. And then there was the styling. Buyers could order the T41 Endura front end, which gave the Le Mans the same aggressive nose as the GTO. It had bucket seats, a rally gauge cluster with a tachometer, and a Formula steering wheel. On paper, it was practically a GTO, but the name on the badge said otherwise. That made it a smart choice for anyone looking to get muscle car power without paying GTO-level insurance. The biggest reason this car remains unknown? Rarity. Only 31 Le Mans coupes were ever built with this exact combination of features. Without a special VIN code to identify them, many were likely mistaken for regular Le Mans models over the years. Today, most people have no idea that a few of these Le Mans 455 HO cars even exist. It had the power, the looks, and the performance, but it never got the recognition it deserved. The Le Mans 455 HO was a true sleeper, a muscle car hiding in plain sight. Number 5, 1975 Chevrolet Nova 9C1 Police Package. The Chevrolet Nova 9C1 is one of those cars that had everything a police car needed: solid performance, tough suspension, and great handling. But it never became as well known as the big full-size cruisers of its time. It was a compact police car that could out-handle and out-brake the bigger, more powerful patrol cars. Yet most people today have no idea it even existed. Back in 1974, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department was looking for a better, more fuel-efficient police car. Their massive fleet of gas-guzzling sedans was expensive to run, and with the recent oil crisis, they needed a smarter solution. That's when Motor Trend magazine editor and Police Reserve Deputy John Christie stepped in. He believed that a smaller, lighter car could work just as well for law enforcement. Chevrolet took up the challenge and built a prototype police Nova, which quickly impressed the department. By 1975, Chevrolet made the Nova 9C1 an official police package. Unlike other Chevrolet police cars, which could be ordered with different engines and options, the Nova only came one way: a 4-door sedan with a 350 cubic inch V8 engine, a 3-speed automatic transmission, heavy-duty brakes, and a 3.08-to-1 rear axle ratio. No weak six-cylinder versions, no stripped-down economy models. This was a fully engineered police car, ready for action. While it only made 155 horsepower, the Nova handled better than any other American police car at the time. It borrowed suspension parts from the Camaro Z28, including a quick-ratio steering box, upgraded shocks, and anti-roll bars. This made it nimble and easy to control, a huge advantage for officers driving in tight city streets. It also had better braking and fuel economy than the bigger police cars. Despite its advantages, the Nova never became a mainstream police car. It was overshadowed by larger, more traditional cruisers like the AMC Matador and Dodge Coronet. However, departments that used it, especially in Los Angeles, Boston, St. Louis, and Jacksonville, loved it. By 1978, Chevrolet ended production of the Nova 9C1, replacing it with the Malibu 9C1. It had performance, efficiency, and great handling, but it never got the recognition it deserved. The Nova 9C1 was a true sleeper, a police car ahead of its time, forgotten by most, but legendary to those who knew its potential. Number 4, 1975, Buick Century, GS 455. The Buick Century is one of those cars that had all the right ingredients to be a legend. Big V8 engines, solid performance, and even a role as an Indianapolis 500 pace car. Yet somehow, it remains overlooked. While everyone remembers muscle cars from the late 1960s and early 1970s, the Century quietly carried serious potential, but few noticed. By 1975, the Century was Buick's mid-size car, available as a coupe, sedan, or station wagon. It started with a 231 cubic inch V6 engine, making 110 horsepower. But the real hidden gem was the 350 cubic inch V8 with a 4-barrel carburetor, pumping out 145 horsepower. That might not sound like much, but thanks to Buick's focus on ride quality and handling, the Century felt quick and planted on the road. What makes this car so unique is that it had serious performance potential. But Buick never marketed it as a high-performance machine. The Grand Sport GS package, which had once been a true muscle car trim, was reduced to just an appearance and suspension package. Under the hood, the biggest engine, the legendary 455 cubic inch V8, was gone. Instead, buyers were left with the V6 or the 350 cubic inch V8. Still, with the right tuning, the Century could easily surprise much flashier cars on the road. One of the coolest versions of the Century was the 1975 Indianapolis 500 pace car. The actual pace car had a 455 cubic inch V8, dual exhaust, heavy-duty suspension, and aggressive styling. But the replicas sold to the public were toned down. They came with the 350 cubic inch V8 and a slightly softer suspension setup. But they still looked the part with their white paint, red and blue decals, and T-top roof panels. Buick didn't push the Century as a performance car, so most people ignored it, even though it had all the right pieces. In the end, the Buick Century was a true sleeper, a comfortable, well-built car with muscle car DNA hiding beneath a mid-size body. It was quick, stylish, and had real potential, but it never got the attention it deserved. Number 3, 1976, Plymouth Volare Roadrunner 360. Muscle cars were in trouble by the mid-70s. Gas prices were sky-high, insurance companies were cracking down, and new government rules were forcing cars to lose horsepower. Chrysler had to adapt, and one of their solutions was the 1976 Plymouth Volare Roadrunner, a car that had the heart of a muscle car, but the looks of an everyday cruiser. The biggest reason this car remains unknown? It wasn't its own model anymore. The Roadrunner name, once a legend, was now just an option package on the new Volare. This meant it looked almost identical to the base model, making it blend in with ordinary cars instead of standing out like classic muscle machines. But looks can be deceiving. Barry Butler's Roadrunner proves that underneath the mild design, this car had serious hidden power. The factory version didn't get much attention, but Barry and his brother rebuilt the engine into a beast. They took a small block Chrysler V8, increased its size to 408 cubic inches, and loaded it with performance parts. A 4-inch crankshaft, high-lift camshaft, ported heads, a big carburetor, and a nitrous kit. The result, a car that looked like an average Volare, but could run the quarter mile in 12.6 seconds at 110 miles per hour. That's the definition of a sleeper. A car no one expects to be fast until it leaves them in the dust. The suspension and chassis also helped keep it planted. Factory torsion bars up front, heavy-duty leaf springs in the rear, and KYB shocks made it handle better than people assumed. The 8 3/4-inch rear axle with 3.91 gears gave it the perfect balance of acceleration and drivability. Even though it had all the right parts, the Volare-based Roadrunner never became a legend. It wasn't flashy, it didn't make headlines, and most people didn't even know it existed. But for those who understood what was under the hood, it was a muscle car hiding in plain sight, a true unknown sleeper of the 70s. Number 2, 1977, Ford LTD2 Sport. Some cars scream for attention, while others slip through the cracks, never getting the respect they deserve. The Ford LTD2, built between 1977 and 1979, falls into the second category. It looked big, comfortable, and a little too formal, like something your neighbor's dad would drive. But hidden under that long body was something surprising. It had the heart of a muscle car. So why does nobody talk about the LTD2 today? Because it was stuck between two worlds. Ford killed off the Torino, Gran Torino, and Elite, replacing them with this car. The problem? People expected the LTD2 to be a full-size luxury car, but underneath it was still riding on an updated Torino chassis, a platform built for performance. In a strange way, it was both a muscle car and a family cruiser, but Ford never sold it as either. If you took a quick glance, you might mistake it for a regular full-size Ford. It had a boxy front end, vertically stacked rectangular headlights, and a long body with big fender flares. It also shared some styling with the Thunderbird, including the optional opera windows on the coupe models. But underneath all that styling, the LTD2 had something special, a powerful V8 engine lineup. Most came with a 302 cubic inch V8, which was decent, but nothing special. The real magic happened when you found one with the optional 351 cubic inch Windsor, or modified V8, or the big 400 cubic inch V8. These engines had torque for days, and with a few upgrades, they could turn the LTD2 into a serious street sleeper. But Ford never pushed it as a performance car, so most people just saw a big, heavy coupe, sedan, or wagon, instead of the potential lurking under the hood. It wasn't just the engines that made it interesting. The chassis was built tough, using a full perimeter frame, with 14 rubber body mounts to keep the ride smooth. The rear suspension had a 4-link solid axle with coil springs, meaning it could handle power well, especially if someone knew how to set it upright. But because it was marketed as a family car, not many people realized how much performance it could actually deliver. Then came the real problem: timing. When the LTD2 hit the streets in 1977, General Motors had just downsized its full-size cars, making Ford's new mid-size model look massive by comparison. The LTD2 was supposed to be Ford's answer to the smaller Chevrolet Impala and Caprice, but it actually ended up being bigger on the outside and smaller on the inside. Buyers wanted something fuel-efficient, not another big cruiser. To make things worse, in 1978, GM downsized its mid-size cars too, making the LTD2 feel even more out of place. In the end, sales dropped fast, and by 1979, the LTD2 was done. Ford moved on to true downsized models, and the LTD2 faded into history. Today, most people don't even remember it existed, but for those who know, it's an underrated, unknown sleeper, a muscle car in disguise, hiding under a name that never got a chance to shine. Number 1, 1979, Chrysler 300. Some cars are famous, some cars are forgotten. And then there's the 1979 Chrysler 300, a car that sits quietly in history, waiting for someone to notice it. It had the power, the looks, and the legendary 300 name, but most people have no idea it even existed. So, what happened? Well, for starters, Chrysler had stopped making the 300 after 1971. For years, the name sat on the shelf while other muscle cars took the spotlight. Then, out of nowhere, Chrysler brought it back for 1 year only in 1979, but they did something unexpected. Instead of building an all-new muscle car, they turned the Cordoba into a performance package. At first glance, the Chrysler 300 didn't seem like much. It was only available in white with red and blue pinstripes, and it looked a lot like a regular Cordoba. But take a closer look, and you'd notice the details. Black egg crate grille with a bold 300 badge, quarter windows etched with gold 300 emblems and aggressive fender louvers. Inside, it had red leather bucket seats, a leather-wrapped steering wheel, turned aluminum dash trim, and a full set of sport gauges with a tachometer. It had all the right touches, but because it looked so much like a Cordoba, most people didn't realize what it really was. Then there was the engine. Under the hood sat a 360 cubic inch V8 with a 4-barrel carburetor, pushing out 195 horsepower. That might not sound like much today, but back in 1979, it was one of the strongest engines on the market. For comparison, the base Corvette that year only had 185 horsepower. The 300 wasn't just for looks, it had real muscle. Paired with the TorqueFlite 3-speed automatic transmission, it could move its nearly 2-ton body with surprising speed. But here's the thing nobody noticed. By 1979, the golden era of muscle cars was fading fast. Big engines were disappearing, Chrysler was struggling, and people were more worried about gas prices than performance. The Dodge Lil Red Express truck, which had the same engine, got all the attention, while the Chrysler 300 quietly slipped under the radar. Only 5,500 were ever built. Today, most are either long gone or sitting in junkyards, completely overlooked. It had the power, the style, and the name. But because it was based on a luxury car, nobody gave it the respect it deserved. And that's why the 1979 Chrysler 300 remains one of the most unknown sleeper cars of its time. Which of these cars would you like to drive? Do you know any other hidden marvels from the 70s? Let us know in the comments below.